Hey, Ober Sports, Jacob Ober here. I've got my Week 10 NCAA football team rankings, the top six. This is how I would rank the teams from numbers 1 to 6, not how I think the committee was going to rank the teams. So this is not a prediction video like I said in the last video. This is my specific rankings of the teams. So let's get started here. At number 1, my first team is Georgia. Last week I had Alabama at number 1, but I kind of thought about it over the week as well as looked at the committee's reasoning for putting Georgia ahead of Alabama. And I thought, that makes a lot of sense. And Alabama this week didn't really do anything to show me that they deserve the number 1 spot over Georgia. So Georgia is my number 1. Georgia's undefeated. They're coming off of a win over South Carolina. Their strength of schedule is better than Alabama's, and they'll be tested on the road this weekend against number 10 Auburn at the famous Jordan-Hare Stadium. If you don't remember, a few years back, Auburn beat Georgia at Jordan-Hare on that miracle play to Ricardo Lewis, bounced off of what's-his-face, or the Georgia defender's hands and right into the arms with like 25 seconds to go. One of the great games in recent college football history. So it's going to be interesting to see the rematch there. And number 2, I've got Alabama. Not much to say about Alabama. They've pretty much laid waste to any inferior team they've come across, which is pretty much the entire season so far for them. They did have a 24-10 victory over LSU, which was a pretty decent victory, but it didn't show me that they're a better team than Georgia, so I have them at my number 2. They're going to be tested this weekend against number 18 Mississippi State. They're going to be on the road, so that'll be an interesting one to see. That'll be a good test for Alabama. Georgia beat Mississippi State 31-3 earlier in the season, so it'll be a good measuring stick to see which team is better against a common opponent. At number 3, I've got Notre Dame. I predicted this right last week, even though it wasn't a prediction. The committee agreed with me when I said that Notre Dame is the number 3 team in the country. Notre Dame has a really strong strength of schedule. They have plenty of ranked wins. They only lost to Georgia by 1 point. They had to fend off a Wake Forest rally last weekend. They won 48-37. Not the most impressive victory, but they won, so that's all that matters in college football at this time of the year, that you win games. They'll have another test against number 7 Miami on the road this Saturday, so lots of tests going on. Lots of teams going on the road to face ranked opponents this weekend. Number 4, I've got Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is undefeated, and they have not played that many good opponents. Their best win is Northwestern, probably. But they're going to face a true test against Iowa at home this weekend. Iowa coming off of that 55-24 victory over Ohio State, which bumps Ohio State out of my rankings, by the way. They haven't really looked that impressive, Wisconsin, but they are undefeated, and remember, winning is the only thing that matters at this point in the year. So, I can't really see any reason why they shouldn't be in the top 4. I mean, you can talk all about their inferior competition, but the way I see it, they're the last remaining undefeated Big Ten team, so they're in my top 4. At number 5, I've got Oklahoma, and Oklahoma improved, or Oklahoma had an impressive 55-52 win over number 11 Oklahoma State. They had one loss to Iowa State, but Ohio State also had a win over TCU. They're a big upset team this year, Iowa State. I'm not going to knock them that much for it, but the loss is what's keeping them out of the top 4 for me. But they're going to be tested too against TCU this weekend, who is number 8. So I got Oklahoma at number 4 for that. Number 6, I got Clemson, and these 5 and 6. They're pretty interchangeable for me. Clemson and Oklahoma are really just about equals in my opinion. Clemson had an impressive 38-31 road victory over number 20 NC State. Like Oklahoma, the only thing that's keeping them out of my top 4 is that one loss, and that's to Syracuse. And they're really the only team in the top 6 with a really bad loss. And Clemson is outside of that one loss. I think their starting quarterback was injured that game too. But outside of that one loss, they've looked pretty impressive. So it's hard to put them in the top 5 because of that one loss. That's because it's the only loss, bad loss that any of my top 6 teams have. But I mean, really, they have not looked that bad. It was really just one game, and sometimes that happens to college football teams. But it might cost them down the road here, because those losses hang around with you. I mean, if Wisconsin goes undefeated and Clemson wins the rest of their games, I mean, would they pick a Clemson team with one loss over a bad opponent versus an unbeaten Wisconsin who wins the Big Ten? I don't know. But I did choose Oklahoma. Sorry. I did choose Oklahoma over Clemson because Oklahoma's loss to Iowa State really not that bad. I mean, Iowa State beat TCU. Iowa State is a pretty good team this year. I'm not going to knock them that much for it. I think they were on the road when they played them too. So, anyways, that's my top 6. So at number 1, I've got Georgia. Number 2, I've got Alabama. Number 3, I've got Notre Dame. Number 4, Wisconsin. Number 5, Oklahoma, and number 6, Clemson. And that's a little bit of a shakeup from my last week's predictions, or my rankings. Last week I had Alabama at number 1, Georgia at number 2, Notre Dame at number 3, Ohio State at number 4, Wisconsin at number 5, and Clemson at number 6. So a little bit of a shakeup, and a lot of these teams are going to be playing some pretty good competition. Georgia has the game on the road against number 10 Auburn. Alabama has a road game against number 18 Mississippi State. Notre Dame has a game on the road against number 7 Miami. Wisconsin has that game against what will be a ranked Iowa. Oklahoma has the win over, Oklahoma has the game over in TCU, number 8 TCU, and Clemson. Clemson is really the only one who doesn't really have that big of a schedule or tough of a schedule going out, but lots of tests for a lot of these teams, and it's going to be interesting to see how it shapes up. This is probably going to be the biggest weekend in college football so far with all these ranked matchups. I'm really interested to see how Wisconsin does against Iowa. Iowa's going to be the first real opponent that the Badgers face to test their ability to hang with good teams. Because the Badgers really haven't played any fantastic teams so far this year, but they'll get their chance to prove that they belong in the top 4 when they play Iowa this weekend. And a win's going to be a win. It's not going to be like it has been for the Badgers where they have to cover the spread or anything. If they beat Iowa, they're going to move up regardless, in my opinion. So, anyways, that's all I really have to say in this video. Let me know your rankings in the comments if you agree, disagree. But anyways, guys, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if you're not doing anything tonight, make sure to watch some Monday Night Football because of the Packers. I've got my Brett Favre jersey on. The Packers are playing the Lions. Brett Hundley starting at quarterback and making his second NFL start. I'll have my reactions to that game up immediately following the game. But anyways, guys, really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.